Good to have everybody back. We just finished our second week of the off-season program in Phase 1, which concludes Phase 1. Now we get to move on to Phase 2, so we'll be on the field next week finally. But first 2 weeks are Phase 1. It's all meetings and weightlifting. We can't do anything on the field with the players. Been good to have everybody back, get back to work. Obviously, the rookies will be coming in next week for the rookie minicamp starting Thursday. So just for dates-wise, you guys have them. Thursday, they'll be in here Thursday afternoon through the weekend. But we'll be back to work there. And then again, just as all off seasons are, voluntary program, so there's not a whole lot of information I'll be giving out about attendance or who's here or not here because it's voluntary and they don't have to be here. We've had good turnout, happy with it so far, but as far as who's here and who's not, I'm not going to answer those questions for a voluntary program. But other than that, you guys go ahead.
What did you guys find intriguing about Tyler when he was out there, and how do you feel like he should fit into the system, into the scheme?
I feel good about Tyler. He, productive player for a long time. On top of that, he's a fantastic person, understands his role on a football team, understands the value he brings as a leader. Those are traits that we're looking to add as many of them as we can. He's still got some production left in him, I think, and still wants to play ball and still has the desire to try to play at a high level. So excited to have him. Haven't got a chance to be out there with him yet, obviously, but I think he's going to bring a veteran leadership to us and veteran play style, which will complement our group well at this point. I think when we're all together, we'll have a good mix of veterans and young players to develop.
How much can a guy like that help to bring along a young quarterback when you're trying to develop a guy like Cam?
Yeah, it's part of the puzzle. Opportunity to have some perspective from a veteran player. Obviously you got Calvin as well, who's played quite a bit of football. Those guys, they offer perspective. They offer maybe how to do things and, hey, think about this or think about that. It really does help having veteran players around a young player for the same reason. It's good to have a guy like Kevin Zeitler in here for the guys up front, guys that have just done it for a long time. They have perspective. They understand what it takes to be successful, and not just for a year, for multiple years of playing at a really high level. And all those guys that you can bring in to help supplement your football team, I think, bring a lot of value.
How do you like your two draft picks at receiver, and what do you think they bring to the team?
Yeah, we'll see. Like their tape from college. They have definitely things both of them do well that we liked them enough to draft them. And now the next phase begins, and that's the acclimation and beginning points of learning a new offense and a new system, and where we can use them best and how they fit within that group. I think they're going to bring plenty of competition. The group's going to be competitive. I think we got a lot of guys that have skills that we can use. But both of those young players, like all the young players we have, they got a lot of work ahead of them. There's a lot of things that got to get done between now and September, and then even past that, it doesn't ever stop. But those guys definitely have to earn their way through it. They're going to have to learn what to do and how to do it, and then when opportunities come to perform, they're going to have to perform. And I'm looking forward to getting them here and getting to know them and meet with them and see where they're at. But as far as those things go, we'll see.
Where will you start them off role-wise or position-wise? Kind of what's the jump for that?
As far as like what spot they'll play at, I think Elik's got a flex at kind of really X or Z for us. We'll start him at X, but I think that's flexible. Where I think Chim has an ability to he's really a kind of a three-hole player. He's got a lot of flexibility, so we're going to have to find what suits him the best. So it's for those guys. It's quite a bit of we'll see as they get going. But I do like the flexibility they both have. I think they both have ability to do multiple things in the offense, and what those things are and how fast they take to it will be the key for them to be able to contribute.
How much did the offensive coordinator and you enjoy the fourth round picks there when you get three straight pass catchers?
Yeah, they're exciting young players, right? They're guys that have had production in college. They have traits that are worthy of the draft picks. I think Gunnar is another guy that you see is somebody who could really help our football team too. So to add three pass catchers with guys that have the traits that you think will lend to some success and some contribution is what you're hoping for. And I think all three of those guys got a big, there's a lot of opportunity in front of them.
Have you talked with Will since the draft, and are you concerned at all about any awkwardness in the room?
No, I think, my conversation with Will when he left was the same, and we came back was the same. There was no, you don't have to make any, crazy conversations. And I think Will's done a really good job of focusing on what he can improve at. And I'm excited to see what that looks like for him, the work he's put in. Will's always worked. There's nothing about that. It's always been something he's done. And I think he had a very clear path and what he wanted to accomplish this offseason. And he just spent the time worrying about him. And at the quarterback position in general, that's all you can control. You don't control whether receivers get open. You don't control whether linemen make their blocks, and I think for him, just narrowing his focus on what he can get better at. And I think he's done a good job of that. And I think competition is good for everybody. Competition is good for young players. It's good for veteran players. It keeps their edge. So having guys that can play and compete, I think is a good thing for our football team. It's going to make us better from top to bottom. It'll make those individuals better too, just because they're going to have to come in and perform. And there's always somebody else that's there that could possibly perform better. And I think that's how you get the best out of each position group and ultimately your team.
Specifically with that position, how do you plan to divide or handle reps during OTAs, during minicamp? And is there going to be a first-team guy at quarterback?
Yeah, well, they'll have plenty of opportunities. How those reps get shaken out will sort of be determined by how they perform when given opportunities. That part of it's been thought out. We have a plan in place. And what that looks like is going to ultimately be sort of up to them, and how their performance goes when there's time to perform. So feel good about the process and the plan in place, and there's going to be plenty of reps for those guys to compete and get better and improve and be ready to play in September. So, starting off early on here is baby steps to some degree.
When you say those guys, which guys are you referring to?
All the quarterbacks. Yeah, they're all going to have opportunities to compete. And again, there's 3 quarterback jobs on most teams, sometimes 4, and we're going to let them compete for all those.
With all the newness in the front office and everything, how was that process as far as like you guys as coaches working with the front office to make sure that there was an understanding of the traits that you guys want to develop and bring the right guy in?
I thought it was fantastic. The communication between Mike and his staff with the coaching staff was really seamless. I think we all see football players and football very similarly. We had really great dialogue. I thought one of the things that Mike did in the process that was unique, I had not done it that way before, is he sort of brought the coaches in an earlier part in the process so they could have conversations. He was open with the board. There's lots of different ways to do it. There's some people that are very, coaches, you come in, you read your reports, and that's it, and we'll take that opinion and we'll go from there. They won't let you look at the board. And I think Mike was very open and transparent with all of the staff involved in it, and I think that led to some really productive conversations, and it allowed us to, have a conversation about a stack of players maybe, and then maybe a coach didn't see one as high as they did, and they well, maybe I need to go back and look at that again. Or maybe we saw somebody higher, and they're like, well, we should go back and look at that one again. And so we had this sort of flowing dialogue throughout the entire course of the process, a lot earlier than I had done it in previous places. And I think it was really productive. I thought that he built a lot of trust really quickly amongst our staff, both with the front office staff and the coaching staff. It's very thorough, very detailed, always had a reason. And I think that process worked out really well. I was pleased with the actual process of it. And again, we'll see how the picks work out for us at the end of the day. But everything else was really, really good. I was happy with how that worked.
In terms of that, with evaluating not only the incoming players but the holdover players, how much input did Mike seek from you and your staff? When decisions were made, okay, we need to keep this guy, we need to provide competition for this guy, we need to get rid of that guy.
It was constant through the whole process from the minute they got here. They spent time, especially Mike and Dave, at every sort of lunchtime point we had early when he first got in here after we got back from the combine. We went through every position with every position coach, talked through the players, talked through our needs, talked to where we thought we needed to get better, where we thought we could improve. And then, their job is to manage that with the free agency market and see what that looks like. And you're matching up both the free agency market and the draft, and you're trying to balance out where you think you can find the players you need. And I thought they did a really nice job of that. And again, there's no no qualms on my end about the communication and the feedback he took from us and the coaching staff wise, and I think we were all on the same page with where we were headed and how we were going to get there.
Last week, you guys basically said that no matter what happened in the draft, you weren't going to be able to fill every hole on this roster just last weekend. So now that the dust has settled, what positions do you see on this roster where you're kind of looking for somebody to step up to kind of fill those holes that aren't filled yet?
I think we have some young players in the secondary that we're looking for some jumps. The corner position in particular, you can throw the nickel in there as well. All that together to see how that shakes out. Got some young linebackers that we need to step up. Obviously, we added Cody to that group, but there's some young players that we need to see them improve and play better. And then obviously, anytime you can add more depth at either front, offensive line, defensive line, I mean, those are always things we're going to be looking for. That's never going to change. You never really ever feel like you've arrived at those spots because ultimately you still have the injuries are out there somewhere. It's just inevitable with the way the game is that you're going to have guys step up. So those spots I think are ones that we're kind of always looking at and looking for some young players to step up. And the receiver position is going to be really competitive, I think, from top to bottom with the veterans we brought in, with the young players that are coming in as well. So there's going to be some spots where young players are going to compete. There's going to be some spots where we're going to keep looking through all the process where those spots can be, and some of it's dependent on what's available, and some of it's going to be dependent on how guys play and over the course of the spring and into training camp.
I know some guys have been in the building throughout the off season. Anybody that's come back that you can look at them and tell they have been working especially hard or stood out to you from a physical appearance?
No, I don't think there's anybody that stands out in that way. I think everybody I've seen looks like they've been working, which is exciting. We've got a good group of guys. They work hard. They enjoy the process of it. So no surprises there in terms of what guys, no year one to year two dramatic changes in body types or anything like that. But I think guys are ready. They've worked hard. They've worked hard the first 2 weeks here. We just got to keep building on it.
What have the conversations been like with JC in terms of making the move back to right?
Good. Yeah, I think he's all for whatever we think is going to help our team the best, and that part's been great. He's obviously got plenty of experience at right tackle, and anymore, all these tackles at the end of the day make money, and I think there was always this disparity between right and left, and that's always at the back of people's minds. But I think anymore you got to have two good tackles, and JC moving over to the right is he's comfortable there. I think it gives us a unique blend of size and strength when you pair him with Zeitler on the right side. That part's going to be cool to see how that develops chemistry-wise. And I think it's just how do we find the best five linemen, and he was all on board from the get-go. And it really every tackle too, even in the off season, they still train both sides, so you don't ever kind of get overbalanced in one way or the other, both in your stance and your power and punch. And so those are things that he worked on quite a bit, and he was going to work on anyway. So it's a pretty natural transition, and he's been fantastic with the approach to it. So I'm proud of that.
Yeah, I was going to say, did those conversations start after you guys signed Dan, or I know you sort of offered it as a possibility even before that. Did you talk about it before that, or was it really after the signing?
It was after we were trying to get that part. We told him that there's a possibility that he could move because of the fact that it's hard to find. Some tackles can only play one side, and that's definitely going to be their better side. Now, if you're a backup, you have to swing. You don't have a choice. But there's certain guys that have played exclusively left tackle. Dan Moore, for example, right? But where JC does have flexibility, and so what would allow us to get the best five offensive linemen to improve our team as much as we possibly could, that was going to be something that we'd have to be open to. And even though I thought JC had a solid season as a left tackle, it had nothing to do with his play. It was just how do we get the best two tackles on our team playing football, and he was fully understanding of that and has been great. Attacked it really with a great enthusiasm, which has been fun to see.
As you look at Burks, Traylon Burks in his current situation, like what can you expect from him for this year?
Well, he's got to get healthy first. That's the first part. He's still working back. We'll see where that ends up when he actually gets cleared. But he's got to come in and make some plays. I think he's always had the ability. He's shown flashes of it, and they're just looking for the consistency to show up when it's time to show up. And I thought there was some things that were good last year. But then again, just there's the moment to make the play, right? When the play is there to be made. to make it with consistency and show up production-wise when the ball comes your way. And I thought he really improved last year from the time he came in to the shape that he was in into training camp, and then didn't start probably the way that he wanted to, or really any of us wanted to for that matter, and then had the injury. So never really had a chance to get going, but we need to see if we can get the consistency part down. I think that's for everybody on our football team right now, is that execution over time at the rate that's expected.
Yeah, and with today being a deadline, I would imagine the fifth-year option is not something you guys want to pick up, correct?
Yeah, that's a question for Mike and Chad. I think they kind of answered it the other day, but
Yeah, they said they're working through it, but
yeah, I have not heard anything officially to that regard. So I'm sure that'll come out today at some point.
How optimistic, going back to the offensive line, Brian, how optimistic are you about the group that you should possibly have now, when last year it was a week-to-week thing? We're like, well, we'll see what we got this time.
I think we're improved. I think anytime you add a caliber of player of Kevin Zeitler, and the way he's played as long as he's played at that level has been really impressive. And then you add Dan, who's started for 4 years as a left tackle, and now you got a second-year player in JC that I think has a ton of talent, and I think Pete's gotten better every year. You get Lloyd back when he's healthy. On paper, it looks like we're much improved, but again, it's we got to go do it. We'll see what it ultimately looks like, but I think we feel like we've improved the spot, and we should be in a better place than we were a year ago. But it's got to be obviously a lot better than it was a year ago.
How is Lloyd's progress coming along?
Good. He's doing great. Rehab's going well. He's in a good place. He's in good shape. So, he's on track.
We have players waiting, so we can wrap it up.
Okay. Can I just ask?
You got one more. Come
Okay. You mentioned earlier that the way you see the game is similar to how Mike and his staff see it. What exactly did you mean by that?
I think we're looking for the same types of players. We want big, fast, intelligent, high character. All the things that you look for in a player are all the things we all want. And now it's just finding them and then developing them, and that's our job. We got to do a great job of putting those guys in position to continue to improve. But I think we see what the type of player we want. I think we see it the same, and that's. I don't know that that's necessarily changed from our perspective. I think we all want those things all the time, and so we just keep hammering away at it. But they've done a great job communicating with us, I think, is the biggest thing, and just what the process is, how they want it to look, and what our role is in it. And I think that's all anybody really wants at the end of the day is to know exactly what's expected and let us go do it.
You've never had somebody come in here and shake everyone's hand before. Why is that important to you? What does it say about it?
I mean, I feel like, y'all are just as much as family as everybody that's going to be teammates, right? Like, so you got to get to know the coaches, get to know the media. You guys are going to be the ones writing stories about us, whether it's good or bad. And who knows, sometimes doing that handshake, you might be a little bit more lenient with the yeah, but I mean, either way, it's great to meet y'all. Obviously, I'm going to learn new names, learn new faces, but excited just to be able to do some media with y'all.
What's it like coming into a new situation and also now a brand new quarterback coming in and the #1 pick in Cam?
Yeah, obviously it's going to be new just because, I've been at the same place for 10 years. And now being able to go somewhere else it's a lot different. Like I said, you're looking at different faces, a lot of different coaches that I haven't had the chance to play with, different players. Some players I have played with. But for the most part, it can also be refreshing. The biggest thing that I think you battle with, that any player battles with, is just the comparison of, oh, well, they did this here, we do this here. Like, and you pick and choose what you like or don't like. But the other thing is you just got to be able to buy in. I think Nashville is a great city, and it's been pretty cool so far. Like, the teammates are very welcoming, the coaches are very welcoming. Coming in OTAs, we've been installing a lot. So I tell you, it's been a lot, but it's been fun at the same time, learning everybody's names in the in treatment with the medical staff. Been having great connections and conversations. Just went in the weight room with the weight staff. So it's been really good just within my first couple of days of being here from Monday to today.
What were the things that ultimately sold you on the Titans and signing here?
I was talking to Jim yesterday, and a lot of people didn't know this, but, I actually grew up a Titans fan when I was younger. And I'm not just, saying that. I actually went to the Titans versus Baltimore playoff game It was my mom, my best friend Dante, and I want to say his mom as well. And we drove all the way up to Nashville, stayed over there by Vanderbilt, and we went to the game. So I was a fan of like Vince Young, fan of Finnegan. That was like one of my favorite cornerbacks to watch because he always got into a fight every single time. Linebacker was Bullock. You had Albert Haynesworth, who was nasty at the defensive tackle, and I even watched Britt at receiver. So, and the other person, you obviously can't forget Vince Young and Chris Johnson, but even Griffin. You know, it was just fun. So ever since Vince Young got drafted, I was always trying to keep up with Tennessee and stuff, and that was pretty much after my dad ended up playing in the league. So when he was done, I started to navigate the Tennessee, and then after that, I just started watching more college.
Tyler, how much has Quandre maybe told you about Cam and just from afar, even though you haven't gone to play with him yet, what is it that stands out about his game that you like?
Oh, yeah. Well, Quandre always used to talk to me about Cam ever since he was leaving Incarnate Word and went to Washington State, where I got the chance to be able to watch him. And if I didn't watch him, I heard about him the night before the game because Quandre made sure to tell us his stats, how many touchdowns he threw. And definitely Quandre was like his number one fan. And so just being able to tune in a lot more because we're on the West Coast and we got to see a lot of their games being played, and then seeing him thrive in Miami was super, super cool. And again, like just that connection with Quandre and Cam, I've started to be able to learn more about him. And so ever since he's gotten drafted, you know, Quandre put us in a group message and I was able to talk to him and stuff like that, like the day before the draft. But he's definitely a cool dude, super eager, and he cares a lot about being great and cares a lot about football.
Brian Callahan touched on, like, you know, your veteran presence and you helping that transition for award be something that they brought you in for. Is that something you take personally, or what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think the number one thing I always try to do is just bridge the gap. And, you know, you got to have those players who understand what the coaches are trying to get done and accomplish, and the players who sometimes don't understand what's being done. You got to have somebody in the middle that's going to be able to tie everything together and get everybody over that hump to the other side. And so for me, you know, like, you know, that might be one of the reasons they brought me here. But at the same time, like, I feel like I have true value that maybe other people don't see. And so, you know, for me, it's always about being your best self, but being able to help build the team that's going to be able to set the type of culture that the coaches want. And so sometimes you talk, sometimes you don't. Sometimes you listen, sometimes you follow. Sometimes, you know, each person kind of comes with different variety of ways to be able to talk to them and coach them. But, you know, it's just you get to this place in the league and, you know, you try to be able to help everybody be the best self that they can be to be able to help the team.
Is it a challenge, Tyler? You think, I know you've only played for, obviously, for one team. Is it a challenge to try to help change the culture when you're coming to a brand new team full of brand new faces as well?
I wouldn't say it's a challenge. I mean, obviously, I feel like when you come in, you got to be able to find your place, right? So you got to be able to gain the respect of others. You can't just come in and just be up here, right? So you got to be able to follow suit, and you got to be able to know when to be able to do certain things. But there's also, I think, a level of respect of people ever since I came into the team, because they're like, hey, man, you've been in the league for 10 years going on 11. And, you know, so there are a lot of people that listen and want to be able to learn and like, hey, man, how can I get to year 11? And so I don't even feel like I'm in year 11. I still feel like I'm a young guy coming into a locker room full of a whole bunch of vets. But there is a respect level, I think, just within the team. And I think that's where it starts with the coaches, with the players. And I think that there's a lot here to build from.
You were tweeting at some of the new draft picks, congratulating them. What do you think about the receivers, the young receivers that they're bringing in?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it's number one, it's great just to be able to get drafted because, you know, that's what a lot of people dream of, is just that opportunity. Obviously, some people wish that they're higher than maybe they were, but at the end of the day, all that matters is being able to get a chance. And I think, you know, just for our whole entire draft class, they got a chance to be able to come in and show who they are and show that they belong to be on the team. And I just remember as a rookie, it's tough sometimes because you don't know what to expect. You were the big dog in college and everybody listened to you and looked up to you. And now, you know, you're playing with grown men. And sometimes, you know, I've been a part of a team where it was like, hey, man, you taking food off of another man's plate. But I've also been on the same team where people are willing to do whatever it takes to help you be the best person that you can be. And I think for this team, and from talking to Mike and talking to Brian, what they're trying to be able to build within this team and this dynasty is being able to have players who care about football, who want to be able to see each other win. And I think that, you know, specifically what you're asking for about the receivers, I think that they fit into exactly what it is that they're trying to mold here.
You talk a lot about being your best self. Just at this point in your career on the field, what do you think your best self looks like?
I mean, you know, best self just in every area. I mean, obviously, you know, I want to get better at blocking. I want to get better in how I run routes, want to get better in how I catch the ball. Like, there's a lot of things that you can continue to learn and grow from just because you've played in the league for so long. You know, once you stop learning, it might as well be all said and done and just be over, right? Like, you don't want to be that person where coaches are like, I can't talk to him because he think he knows everything because he's been playing for so long. But that's not the case. And so for me, you know, every day I can't look ahead. I got to be able to focus on the day. If we're getting ready for a game on Sunday and today's Thursday, I still got Thursday to worry about before I can get to Friday and get to Saturday. And sometimes when you look ahead, you miss those days of being your best self because you're trying to get to where you hope to be for the game rather than just saying, man, when the game comes, I'm going to be my best self that day. But other than that, I'm focused on being my best self on Thursday.
How did the signing process come about, Todd? Because it seemed like it came out of nowhere. Had it been going on for a little bit, or was it really quick kind of process? And what intrigued you about Brian Callahan and the system here also?
Yeah, well, I mean, it was just casual talks. Obviously, my agent reached out, told him that there was interest, and, you know, they was like, okay, you know, we're interested. We'll let you know. Then they called in, wanted to kind of see what was going on and what we were thinking. And then after that, I think there was another talk. Then there was another talk just with checking in, and then they ended up sending something, and before then, it was just a lot of back and forth just within one day, and it happened when I tweeted it. So, I mean, it all pretty much happened that day. So, but watching Brian Callahan, I got the chance to play against him when he was at Cincinnati, so I've always been able to keep up with his offense and seeing what he does and how he uses his receivers, and I thought it was always pretty cool just to be able to watch because, you know, that's when we learned a lot about – we already knew how great Jamar Chase was, but then to be able to see him within the offense and see what T. Higgins was doing as well as Tyler Boyd, I think it was both of them went for 1,000 and Boyd might have been at 800. And so obviously there's similarities with the coaching staff and some of the things that they do that, you know, I've always been a part of as well. So it's been really fun just being able to sit in meetings and learning from everybody within that offensive staff and their play calling.
Tyler, you have been better at making business decisions than anybody in the league. And as a result, I mean, you've missed, what, 1 or 2 games in your career. Is that something you can teach young players? Is that there's a time and a place for everything?
Yeah, I think there is a time and place for everything. Obviously, I think there are some plays where I can get a little bit, you know, more yards than I have, and I can definitely work on that. And there's times where you got to live to play another down because in this game, it's about durability. It's about availability. The fastest that you're out or the fastest that you can't practice, that's another man's opportunity. And when you really think about it, a lot of opportunities that come in the league come from somebody else's downfall. And so you want to be able to be as consistent as can be. You want to be able to show what you can do on the field because it does get to a point of what have you done for me lately. And for me, I want to be able to play as many games as I could play. I want to be able to be injury-free, going out there and doing that type of stuff. But at the same time, there's knowledge of knowing when to do it and how to do it and making sure you secure the first down and making sure, because there's some times where, like, yeah, you could catch a slant and take it to the house, but on third down, well, if you catch a slant and try to take it out, they punch the ball out, it's incomplete, right? So there's times where you got to be able to know when to sacrifice and take that first down and when to be able to get more yards, knowing that these guys now are getting stronger, faster, they're punching the ball out a lot more. So we always got to remember to protect the ball is to be able to protect our livelihood.
Last one.
What's the biggest challenge about working with a rookie quarterback?
I feel like it's a challenge working with anybody. Like, if we're being honest, like, it's not even just on a quarterback. I mean, you know, it's a challenge whenever every year you're bringing in a whole new team. You know, I've been a part of 3 coordinators in the last 3 years, so there's a challenge in learning different plays, right? Like, so everything is going to come with a challenge. It's just about what you're willing to go, what you're willing to attack and what you're willing to complain about. So, I mean, there's always going to be complaints when it comes to whatever situation regarding of what we're going to have to deal with as a team. But, you know, to buy in eliminates a lot of the complaints. To attack, to be aggressive eliminates a lot of the complaints. There's going to be things that doesn't work. It's okay. You learn. You keep going. There's going to be things that work. You continue to build off of it. You grow off of it. But you just continue to look at where you are and where you guys want to be. And as you keep just putting your head down, eventually you're going to get to where you want to be at. But if you keep looking at that destination, you keep forgetting about the small steps that you got to keep taking before you get to the top.
Xavier, what was it, maybe what led you here? What made Tennessee a good fit for you, and how do you like things here so far?
You go where you want it. I think that's the lead. You go where you want it. They wanted me here, so I came.
How you like the team, what's around you, and prospects moving forward?
Nice young pieces. Speaking for the DB room, what you got? Jarvis, I've been watching a little bit of Jarvis as well, and then Sneed. We already know what Sneed's capable of. And then Money, I've been watching him from afar. Then we got nice, I think they just drafted another safety as well, but nice young pieces. The defense is nice. Is nice young guys as well as some vets mixed in. And so hopefully we can just mesh well. We take knowledge from everyone, whether it's from the older guys and from the newer guys, and then hopefully we can be productive.
I talked to Dave Canales about you, and he brought up the professionalism and consistency. He said you were someone that he always would point to and tell the rookies if they want to play in the league for a long time to follow your example. Mm-hmm. So my question is, how did you get to that point? Why is it so important to you to play down, every game the way that you have for the most part?
I mean, starting off, I came in as a 6th-round draft pick, so nothing was promised. I had to make every opportunity count. So I mean, I could have been cut and never made it to this point. I probably wasn't supposed to make the team. Probably wasn't counted to make the team. But every opportunity I got, I made a play. That's just my model. Just make a play a day. If I get the opportunity and never give it back. Once I got that opportunity to whether starting practice, starting the game, I think it speaks for itself. I never gave it back. And so and just being from that standpoint, I just want to earn my teammates' respect. Just being a new place, earn their respect, and just make the most out of everything.
You came from Carolina, and you came.
What your sort of reliability and durability over the years? What are some keys to that? And I guess especially last year, I think did you play every single defensive snap?
I've done that twice. Man, it's just a little bit of just God. It's really all I can account for, man. Just persevering through. We all have bumps and bruises. Everyone had bumps and bruises. It's never going to be 100%. I don't know when the last time I've been 100%. I could be the first game of the year. We won't be 100. It's just persevering, and just a little bit of God. I mean, a lot of God in there too as well. Just been lucky, honestly.
At Carolina, you went through the experience of having the number 1 overall pick at quarterback, come in there and Bryce Young, and going through, being part of a team, going through those growing pains. Can you impart some of that and wisdom and bring some tidbits here as Cam Ward grows?
Honestly, that was different. That was a different situation. Here, Cam's coming into a coaching staff that's been here. Coaching staff, I'm not saying that the coaching staff in Carolina didn't have a plan, but the plan's already been in place because he's been here. He has guys that know the system already. Coaches that doesn't have to learn the system actually go out and see the players play to know what works and what doesn't work. Not saying that what happened there, but as a new coaching staff, and you're meshing different schemes together, you kind of got to get out there and perform it to see if it works or not. So I would just say that he's going to have some consistency. He has a coaching staff that's been here, coaching Cal who knows what he's doing, has been successful at it. And so I just would say rely on that, and then rely on the vets that you have, whether it's in the quarterback room, the receiver room. Lockett was just here. Lockett's played with some guys. Lockett's been to the heights of this league, and so just rely on the vets that he has.
How close are you and Snead from y'all's college days, and just as he's going through on-field adversity, off-field adversity, how much can you be somebody who can kind of help him through what he's going through?
We wasn't as close just because he was a freshman when I came in, so I was kind of on my way out. I mean, we definitely talked though. Us coming from the same place, but I mean, just now, and I kind of went through that this past season with JC, and we all know what JC what he's capable of and what he showcased this year. And JC just wanted to be. JC knew that if he was able to be out there every game, or at least majority of the games, that he can be the Pro Bowler and All Pro that he possessed. And so, I mean, it's just put your head down, just working. I mean, this injury thing it's a little bit of luck. Football's 100% injury rate. A little bit of luck, a little bit of God in there, and then a little bit of just how do you train. And so you all put those things together, just leaving God's hands, Just
If coming in here and being a positive influence on Snead is something that they charge you with, like how much do you embrace that?
I mean, Snead can influence. I can be the influence. Snead can be influencing me. Snead's been to the Super Bowl. I haven't been in the Super Bowl. The playoffs it's been so long ago I can barely remember. So I think it goes back and forth, not just me influencing him, but him influencing me and the room as well, because he's been places in this league that I haven't been. I have the years, but he's had whether it's the playing experience in the crucial moments, whether it's Super Bowls, playoffs, stuff like that. So we all have experience that we can share with one another.
You brought up having the years. How important is it to you at this stage in your career getting a multi-year deal? Because that doesn't always happen at this point.
I've just been blessed enough, man, to this be my third or fourth contract. I mean, it's just a blessing. Definitely. I mean, I'm going into year 9. As a 6th-round pick, it doesn't happen all the time, especially as a DB. And so every day I'm in this building, man, I'm working like it can be my last, because we never know at any moment.
I think Hooker's entering year 7. I mean, that's a lot of experience in a tandem back there. How can you guys take advantage of that?
Just bouncing knowledge off of each other. Whether it's what he sees. He played in this scheme last year. I didn't. I was in a different scheme, of course. And so just asking him what works, picking his brain, and vice versa. I mean, I play in different schemes around the league. So this is new to me. I want to get out there, see how I can adjust, see how I can fit into his scheme, but just bouncing ideas off of each other.
Who's your fourth team, or what's it like joining a new team, getting used to everybody, learn the playbook, learning when to make your voice heard? What's that adjustment like when you kind of begin anew?
It's I kind of got used to it. One thing in this league is turnover and change. I think that's the big thing in the NFL. It's always going to be change, whether it's change from the players, change from the coaches. Whether it's new coaches come in. I mean, I don't think nobody has experienced what I experienced in Charlotte with the amount of coaches I had. It may be in 3 years, I think it might have been 5 or 6. So I don't think no one had experienced that, but, change is inevitable. And so you just got to get used to it, get comfortable with it. And so, I mean, I'm comfortable going in the locker room, meeting new people, meeting my teammates, learning the new schemes. I'm comfortable with everything.
Is a free safety these days, Xavier, or have you kind of gone back and forth a little bit, or where do you kind of...
In this day of the league, that's really going away, honestly. Free safety, strong safety, that's really going away. I mean, a lot of teams just line up the safeties, whether it's field and boundary, or right, left. But this day and age, that's really going away, whether it's field safety, free safety, boundary safety, a lot of schemes. I come from a scheme where it's 2 highs, so 2 high safety all the time. More so like, well, it's like the Rams or the Eagles. I had Coach E there, so he came from the Rams and the Broncos, so it really wasn't a free safety, strong safety, that type of. You got to be able to cover, and so everybody has to cover. So you got to have safeties that can cover, whether it's tight ends or slot receivers.
What are your initial thoughts of, I know it's early, but your initial thoughts of Denard Wilson?
Energetic guy, energetic, definitely not afraid to get on, if not afraid to critique anybody that's in the room, whether it's your star player, whether it's your the last man, quote unquote, that's on the roster, and you have to love that, because he's holding everyone up to that standard. So whether it's last guy, top guy, he's gonna hold every guy up to that standard, and you gotta appreciate that as a player, just because you want to be coach hard, talk hard. And so you got to appreciate that.
Knowing his background, like working with the secondary, it kind of excites you about this opportunity?
Yes, most definitely. I've been fortunate enough to have DCs that have worked with the secondary, so you definitely I definitely, when the door opens up in our meeting room, I kind of know it's Denard coming in. And so he's definitely been in our meeting rooms the past few days. So when he comes in there, we have a saying, what he says really goes, no matter what the position coach says. When he comes in the room, he wants to change something, you got to listen to what he says.
Have you gotten to meet Kevin a pretty decent amount by now, and I wonder what your impressions of him are, what he might kind of bring to the line, do you think?
Yeah, he's just been through Zoom right now. He's an older guy, family and stuff, so everyone's spoken really, really highly of him so far, and excited to be around him. But limited so far, just because he's virtual right now. But really excited to be around him once we get on the field and we're able to do a little more. But yeah, everything everyone said about him has been great, and I'm excited to learn from him.
What do you think it'll be like with a new partner on your left in Dan Moore, with JC moving over to the right?
Yeah, I already know Dan a little bit from off-season training. Already know he's a good guy. I already know his work ethic and his demeanor. So I don't, for me, it's should be a great transition. No, Dan, I think their communication will be great. I think we'll be able to get along well and be on the same page. And love playing with JC, but understand the switch with bringing Dan in. But I'm excited to work with him and get out in the field with him.
Last year, I think there was a lot of hope in the offensive line, hoping these guys would work out on the other side. You've got proven people at all 5 spots. The guys who played and succeeded in this league. How much does that do for you going in?
Yeah, I think you still have to prove yourself. Obviously, I think that'll be our mentality. And like you said, then obviously a little more. You count the years of experience, and that number is a little bit higher than last year. And obviously bringing Kevin in, who's got so much experience. But I think we still have to prove ourselves as a unit, and we still got to play 5 as one. It's 5 positions, but it's 1 position. We all have to play together, and so that's still up to us to prove that. And having the experience helps, but it's going to be us to get those reps and perform on the field.
What's a rookie quarterback have to do to win over the 5 guys?
Say that again.
What does a rookie quarterback have to do to win the 5 guys over in front of him?
Nothing but his job. I think it's simple. Just do what he's got to do. We've got faith in him. Obviously, he was picked number 1 for a reason. So we've got faith in him, and if he just works hard, which I trust he will, and I've just met him briefly, but there's nothing magical. Just doing your job and being accountable and being consistent, and that's all it'll take. And we've got trust in him, and that'll just only continue to build as we get to do stuff and get into camp.
Have you gotten to watch him play at all? So what do you think?
I have not watched a ton of college football, not a ton of ACC football, but definitely some impressive stuff just from like the highlights and stuff that I've seen in the arm. Obviously he's got a ton of experience. I think he did 5 years, so he's got a ton of experience under his belt, which I think is a great thing. And I think maybe you would have heard more about him if he was at one of those blue blood programs, but he obviously did an unbelievable job in Miami too. So I think excited to see how that translates and what he can bring to us and how he can make us better.
What was maybe mindset for you when last season ended? What are some things you want to focus on this off season to get even better?
Yeah, I think just generally going to the off season, I feel a little bit more comfortable with the technique, so we're not so much learning so much of Bill Callahan stuff. So now I feel a little more confident in that. And then so, there's a few set variations I wanted to incorporate in my game, and just a little more consistency in some of the run game. And so far we've done a good job of the staff's done a good job of kind of clearing things up for us as the offseason begins, which I think will help with some of my goals that I had of just sort of consistency and emphasizing some more aggression, physicality in the run game. But yeah, then a few things in pass pro in terms of just footwork and consistency. But yeah, I mean, there's always a million things I feel like in my head that I need to improve on. It's like hard to get them straight sometimes, but yeah.
Who moved positions once you get out of college? How nice will it be, do you think, for JC to kind of go back to the position that he was so comfortable at in college? Do you think that will benefit him?
Yeah, I think so. One thing that's been great about JC is you never heard a word of complaint or gripe about, I didn't play this side, or I was a right side guy and I'm a left side guy, and now he's going back to the right. That's never been a complaint at all that he's had for a second. So I think he has great mentality about that. And I'm sure he does have a little bit of comfort there, being back where he was in college for a while. But yeah, he's going to just continue to work hard and try to be the best he can. But I don't think, what's impressive about him is he hasn't really expressed too much concern about, flipping around like that, which is a character of a great lineman, to just do his job and do what he's asked and do it well.
Could we beat the Gorilla?
Oh my God, from what I've learned about gorillas, I don't think so. Yeah, like their skin or something is like more like thicker or something, and I don't know, I don't care.
You change anything as far, or you try to get stronger, bigger? You comfortable with what you played out last year? Anything change from that standpoint?
Yeah, I don't think my weight needs to go any higher really, which it hasn't so far this offseason. So you're always trying to be stronger and faster and more flexible and more mobility. But weight-wise, I think I'm good where I'm at. So.
Is there a different feel, I guess, in the building now compared to when last season ended with so many new faces, new quarterback, as you mentioned, some new coaches?
Yeah, there's always a different feel, anytime you start a year after a long break like that, and then you add in, the new faces and stuff like that. I think for me, there's a little even more comfort just having the same staff back and, knowing what to expect from Callie and from the staff. But yeah, anytime you bring in a lot of new people like that, there's always going to be a freshness to it. And there's always going to be, need that time to get to know people and to learn what people are like. And yeah, that's what this time is for. So.
Year one for you was a new position, year two, new coaches. Is there a relief that there's less newness for you, that you can just kind of focus on the job itself right now?
Yeah, I think I would say so. I think it's always good for consistency, for personal development. And I think, like I said earlier, like we're not learning so many new techniques this year with Bill. And, I know a lot of those now as opposed to this time last year. I was just learning them and just implementing them. So I think that's big for me. And then having the same offense too is nice too. Just to know, I know most of the X's and O's already, and there'll be tweaks and stuff like that, but I already feel comfortable with so much of that. So yeah, I think there's definitely a level of comfort that we have now.
That holds the ball at times, a little bit trying to make plays and certainly proven very good at that. But does that come with a little bit of a challenge, a little bit of an extra challenge too for the line when you have a quarterback that holds it just a minute to try to make plays?
Yeah, it's kind of there's a little bit of this and that, I think. Sometimes you got to throw the damn ball. I think that's part of any great quarterback play, and I know Cam knows that. I've seen a lot of him getting the ball out quickly at Miami too. But then there's also, sometimes you do have to extend a play, and sometimes, quite frankly, it's tough for the line, and the quarterback's got to make a play. And if he does, he does. And Cam did that hell of a lot of times at Miami too. So I think you kind of just have to live with both things. You're not, got to let guys make plays. I see guys like Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen, Mahomes, those guys get the ball out, but then they also extend plays for a while. So it's both. And no matter what, we're just going to have to do what we got to do.
We talked about Cam a lot, but, with Zeitler and JC on the right side, you and Dan, this group looks like it's built to run the football.
Yeah, that's what I'd always say, right? I mean, we always want to build ourselves to run the football. And I think having a really strong running game always helps a quarterback out. Especially a rookie quarterback. So I think that'll always, that's not your offensive lineman. Your mentality is always, hey, let's run the football. I don't think any offensive lineman goes into a year and says, hey, let's drop back and pass 60 times a game. So yeah, that's 100%. We want to be physical. We want to be dominant. We want to be able to run the football, take some pressure off. Got Cam, build a play action game. So yeah, that's 100% what our mindset will be, and to do that and to help the whole offense.
I think I saw you tweet maybe or post on social about your off-season travels. Where'd you go and who'd you go with this off-season? What was it like?
Man, I was with the tight ends a lot of the time for a lot of the trips. I went to Costa Rica first, then we had a little trip to Australia, and from there went to Japan, and then I had a little trip to the UK and then Brazil. So I got to get around this off-season. It was fun.
What was the highlight?
Man, I really enjoyed Japan just because Japan was a trip I've always wanted to go on since a kid. So finally getting out there, and it was everything I thought it was going to be. So it was really cool.
As you kind of look back at last year for you, Chig, it seemed like there were a little bit of ups and downs throughout your season. I wonder how you evaluate it personally yourself and kind of what you're looking to work on going forward here.
Yeah, I think for me it's just getting the opportunities and then taking advantage of them for me, I just want to, keep going with how I finish off my season, starting with those opportunities and taking advantage of them. Just kind of have that roll in over to this season at the beginning and start off strong and continue on strong.
Sorry, you got a third quarterback in 3 years coming. How much does that need to get settled for this football team to guys take a step forward?
Yeah, it's a very big thing. I mean, you see like all the great teams that have quarterbacks that have been there for a long time. So with Cam coming in, we expect that from him, and he definitely is going to do it for us.
What are your thoughts on watching him play? What he can bring?
Oh, it's awesome. He just brings that element, of a dog. You just got a dog at that position. I've seen the video of like the viral video of him and Shador training and stuff. And you just see the things he says, the way he carries himself. He just kind of has like all the intangibles that you want in that position. And those are the things that really carries you in that position, because that's the hardest position to play in the league. So you really got to have the mind for it.
Have you gotten to talk with him yet?
I talked to him one time in the cafeteria when he came.
What do you remember from that conversation?
It's just really chill, calm personality, calm dude. I think he's perfect to lead his team.
What's it going to take for a rookie QB to win over a locker room with a bunch of vets?
I feel like he's already done it. Being the number one pick, I feel like we're all very excited. We're all very excited for him to come in. So honestly, I feel like he's already done that, in our perspective.
At the tight end position, along the same lines of the rookie quarterback situation, at the same time, the position you play can sometimes be a quarterback's best friend. Does that excite you at all? That you can be that security blanket for Cam and
for sure.
teach him throughout the process?
Yeah, every great quarterback, tight end always matches in that way because it's just a very easy throw over the middle, right in his vision. So definitely want to be that safety blanket for him, just to make sure he knows every time he comes to me, he's going to have a reliable option.
When guys come back for the off-season program, you come off a season where things didn't go so well. What's kind of the mindset, and how do you kind of restart and flush whatever happened last year?
I mean, I think we're in a unique spot. Like I said, having the number one pick, I feel like the excitement here is more so than everything that happened in the past. So we're just all ready to forget about it and move on. So for us, it's really just more so looking towards the future because that's, everything we're doing in the building right now is geared towards that. So.
Did you have a feeling the Titans might be drafting a tight end this year, and just kind of how do you feel like Gunner fits into the room with you guys?
Yeah, I think he is great. I mean, I really haven't watched, much of him play, but, we're going to embrace him as he comes in. I think, he's a tough kid. I've seen, some athletic, plays from him, so he's definitely going to bring that element into the room for us.
You kind of reflected, I guess, on last season. What are some things you focus on trying to improve this season, maybe how you go about doing that?
I think for me, it's really just continue slowing the game down because I think last year for me, it was the first time the game really, got really slow for me, and everything I was seeing, it was just happening. I was just very confident in what I was seeing. So for me, it's just really just keeping it at that, keeping the game really slow for me so that I can play fast.
Chig, you're an animal lover.
Yeah.
Do you think the Titans could take down the gorilla?
I had this funny conversation at breakfast. I was like, all right, let's ask ChatGPT. It was like 100 Jeffrey Simmons versus one gorilla, and ChatGPT said he could do it, but I don't know. I don't think it's possible, man. That gorilla, I don't know. I don't think it's possible. We also said 100 T sweats versus the gorilla. We just have him just hold him down and just everybody just suffocate him. But
the gorilla can bench press 840 and what is it? You said
it could power lift 1,800.
Power lift 1,800.
The problem is the gorilla's going to be using its teeth and everything else too. It's not just going to be fighting. He's going to be ripping us to shreds. And then it's the fear of watching somebody get ripped to shreds. You ain't going to want to fight no more. Yeah, you ain't going to want to fight no more. You're just going to want to run.
How many sweats would you feel confident in? Like how
I
many?
need 100, bro. I need all of them. Have one on each limb, and then everyone else just pile on top of them.